Okay, we are live right now. People are going, whoa, 6:09 and the Huddle Up podcast has gone live. What world are we living in? We got to let it breathe just for a moment here. We got to bring on Facebook and our great audience and community over there. Bear with us just a moment. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It's a Huddle Up podcast presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle. And I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime, my fellow football priest. He is the deputy editor of milehighhuddle.com. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, this is going to blow your hair back. This is going to completely shock you. But Pro Football Focus, all right, they are predicting in their their latest mock draft, a tectonic blockbuster trade for some quarterback that has only been tangentially connected to the Broncos for the last few weeks, months. Deshaun Watson. Have you seen the mock, and what was your thoughts on the Broncos giving up not one, not two, 3 firsts and 2 twos to land Deshaun?
At least it's an original topic, Chad. We haven't broached this before, but I'm still, you ask Broncos country when this article went up or when the tweet went up from PFF, every Broncos fan replied. The ones that I saw were like, do it, yes, please, in a heartbeat. I'm still a little tentative, and I know it's going to sound redundant. I've been saying this ad nauseum as of you for the last, how many podcasts now, 3-4 weeks in a row. I just think that much, and depriving yourself of a first-round pick this year, a second-round pick this year, not picking till the third round when you have all these holes to fill throughout the roster. Because, again, what are you going to do with Justin Simmons if you take on Deshaun Watson's contract? What do you do with Shelby Harris? What do you do with the guys you want to keep and the core you want to build? It's one or the other. It's just too rich for my blood. As good as he is, I just would not do it, Chad.
And by the way, guys, look, this isn't the type of scenario where either Zach or myself, someone disagrees and they just are pining for the Broncos to land. What's up, Big Earn? They're just pining for the Broncos to land Deshaun Watson. We don't think that – we're not going to call anyone an idiot. We're not going to say even so much that you're wrong. We just don't think that's the right thing to do. So I guess if it ain't right, it's wrong. But we're not going to try and make you feel small, all right? We know a lot of Broncos fans at this stage. We know which way the wind's blowing. We lick our thumb, put it up in the air. All right, we can feel the groundswell. People want Deshaun Watson, and we feel you. And the smoke keeps rising. But look at this. Here's another little interesting tidbit. This was a separately proposed trade by the leading advanced analytics site for Deshaun Watson. Here you go. Could you live with this? Broncos get Deshaun Watson. Texans get Bradley Chubb, a first rounder, their first rounder this year, a second rounder this year, and next year's first and second. So you're basically swapping out one of those firsts that were in the mock for Bradley Chubb. Honestly, that's still too rich for my blood, dude. I'm sorry.
Because I don't know if you were done, Chad, but you can make the case that you're giving up a 2018 first rounder in Bradley Chubb as well. So you add that to the whole haul there, and you're stripping away your defense to add to your offense. And ignore Watson's contract, ignore how disgruntled he is and the chance he would repeat that scenario in Denver. Ignore Pat Shurmur. You're still stripping away assets of your defense all for one player. And that one player, the quarterback, is just not as good as a Mahomes. He would not single-handedly elevate the Broncos. I saw PFF, they asked a hypothetical question, would the Broncos be instant title contenders, Super Bowl contenders, if they were to acquire Deshaun Watson? No, I don't think Super Bowl just yet. Playoff contenders, absolutely. But you're talking about a team, Chad, that has a lot of issues that go beyond quarterback. Vic Fangio, his clock management, his defense breaking down at clutch situations, the special teams with Tom McMahon, the play calling on offense. This is a team that has to first learn how to win, how to be relevant before they jump to being title contenders, especially in that division. So I still wouldn't do it. As good as he is, which he is, I am not disputing. Yes, Watson is better than Drew Lock. Literally no one is disputing that. But what you have to give up to acquire Deshaun Watson is where I draw the line. It's too much for me.
Look, and by the way, we're excited because we're going to have one of the MHH Mount Rushmore superstars, and he's also been helping us in the YouTube chats as a moderator lately. Dylan Von Arx on the show. He's ready to go. He's in the green room. We're going to bring him on here in just a few minutes. So we're excited for that. But first, just a couple other things I want to get to, then some matters of business. Then we'll bring Dylan on. The topic of Deshaun Watson. Let me just read this to you real quick. And of course, we will get Dylan's take on these very topics as well. But first, let me just grab this I got to read to you because I'm reading their logic for the trade, right? And I thought they would just kind of stick with the kind of the tried and true. He's a top 5 caliber quarterback. But let me read this to you. Trade, Houston trades. And by the way, Houston takes Trey Lance with that pick at 9. All right. Trade, Houston trades quarterback Deshaun Watson to Denver for the 9th overall pick, a 2021 second rounder, a 2022, blah, blah, blah. Texans brass may keep insisting that they're not going to trade the star quarterback, but Watson looks as good as gone at this point. In fact, FanDuel now has the Broncos as the favorites to land Watson ahead of the 2021 NFL season. If Denver were to acquire the star quarterback, it's going to take a stupid amount. Hey, good
emphasis on stupid.
Of picks, despite the quarterback having a no-trade clause getting in the way. And the Broncos reportedly are willing to do just that. After all, Watson was a top 3 graded quarterback of the 2020 season and is on the path to Hall of Fame status, according to the research done by PFF's Kevin Cole. The Broncos acquiring Watson, this is another thing that just, I'm like, really? The Broncos acquiring Watson, Zach, would have the same impact we saw this past season when Tom Brady signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They'd be Super Bowl contenders right away. I'm sorry, miss me on. I'm not there. I don't think he's that. Look, we saw what Peyton Manning's presence did for the Broncos. We saw what Tom Brady's presence did for the Bucs. You're telling me that that's what Deshaun Watson's going to do for this Broncos squad? I don't think he's there yet in his career. I think someday he might be a quarterback that can do that. I'm just not convinced he's there yet.
I think it's disrespectful lumping Deshaun Watson in with Tom Brady's name. You're talking about the greatest quarterback of all time compared to a quarterback that's 1 and 2 all time in the playoffs, Chad, who, he led the league in passing yards last season. His team won 4 games. I don't see a future Hall of Fame quarterback just yet in Deshaun Watson. I see a perennial Pro Bowl, yet not an all-pro quarterback in Deshaun Watson. So Pro Bowl means one thing, all-pro means another. Hall of Fame, he has a long way to go to get to that point. He's a top 6 quarterback in this NFL currently right now, top 5, arguably, but not where I think PFF rates him. I think he's a tad overrated in the national eye, and I think it's because most check marks and most of these national media types, they tend to side with the players over teams, and they're seeing the disharmony in Houston right now. They're seeing the Cal McNair and the Jack Easterby and how they've mismanaged the situation, and they're taking Deshaun Watson's side, and in doing so, almost inflating or artificially hyping up his worth. Future Hall of Fame quarterback, comparing him to Tom Brady, let's slow down just a little bit. Little hyperbole.
All right, guys, so much more to get to. We're gonna grab Dylan. We're gonna pick his brain on this very topic. We'll get to what's on your mind, your questions, your super chats here in just a second. First, we got to say hello and welcome and thank you to the presenting sponsor of tonight's live stream podcast, Manscaped. Listen up, 2020, it's in the books, gang. It's 2021. It's time to embrace the new year, new me mindset. And what better way to do that than with Manscaped, which is the best in men's below the waist grooming. They have helped over 2 million men keep their male grooming on point. So if you let yourself go a little bit, 2020 quarantine, or even maybe lately you've been in a funk, you've been in a rut, Manscaped is here to help you reboot, stay clean and shaved for 2021.
Yeah, I actually used this earlier today. I didn't do a full shave, as you can see. I know my box is kind of small there, but anyone who maintains a beard, you like to keep it nice and straight, at least mostly straight looking. I know we're not professionals, but this allows you, especially with the light and with the ergonomic grip, to get in there, you go against the mirror, and you make it as straight as you can, and you can really fine-tune the points of your beard, the points if you want to shave your arms, your neck, your chest, if you go to the gym, if you go to the beach, if you go out in public with or without a mask, no matter virtually or in person, you need to feel good about yourself and look good. And I keep saying this every time. Chad's holding up the crop mop. I'm always showing off the lawnmower and the weed whacker. I promise you guys, Manscaped, every single product, they do not miss. If you have any semblance of interest in male grooming, Manscaped is the way to go. I promise you.
And there's just so many different products on offer that I was even ignorant of that were out there to help a guy take his game to another level and step it up. So head on over to Manscaped.com. If you use the code Huddle, you'll get 20% off and free shipping. And your family jewels, they're going to send you a little, letter in the mail saying thank you, appreciate you.
Yes, get 20% off and free shipping with the code Huddle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off, guys, and free shipping, and use the code Huddle at manscaped.com.
All right, guys, I'm going to do the matters of business lightning quick because I don't want to keep Dylan waiting too long. But the usual. Connect with us on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. the main account at Mile High Huddle on Twitter, Zack Kelberman at Kelberman NFL, myself at Chad and Jensen, and Buona Beast on Twitter at John K MHH. Head on over to Facebook, click the big blue button on the Mile High Huddle page that says Become a Supporter. You're in like Flynn, and get access to our VIP premium content that we have begun to roll out in 2021, starting with Kelberman's Corner, which just completed its 7th episode yesterday. Shout out and much love to all of our supporters who have been funneling over there and supporting that content.
Thank you, guys.
We really appreciate you. But so many of you follow and engage and are part of our community on Facebook. If you want to take it to another level, support the cause, and get access to that exclusive content, that's how you do it. And then check out the merch store, gang. We got some cool designs coming this week. You're not going to want to miss it. Head on over to huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on. Get a hat, get a T-shirt, get a hoodie, face mask, mug, little something for everybody. And if you're not in a position to do those things, we do ask that you do these 3 things. All right. We're seriously just happy to have you with us. All right. Maybe we're a little demanding at times of our audience, but this is within your power to do, and it doesn't cost you anything. Subscribe. Most of you already are, but if you're not, subscribe. Like the video, guys. You have no idea how much that helps us. It's a small thing that you can do that helps us in a big way. All right. And the third thing is share this video out there only if you think Zach and I are doing a good job. Maybe we disagree on some of the hot button topics, but if you think we're doing a good job and you respect the work that we're putting in there, share this video out there and help us continue to grow and reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you. All right. Okay. Time has come. Let's bring him on. Dylan Von Arx, longtime superstar in the house. Boom. Here he is on screen. Dylan, dude, it's been so much fun. We talked a little bit before we went live here in the green room, and it was fun to kind of get to know you a little bit, but welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. How are you, dog?
I'm doing awesome, man. You know, a little tired. I work pretty early, but might be on a little bit, but it's, you know, I'm just beyond excited to be here tonight.
Dylan is an OG. I mean, literally an OG. We were talking about this before we went live again too, that, you know, he's been with us, MHH guy, Huddle Up guy, predating the, I guess, the YouTube era, we'll call it, since we started going live on YouTube. And he also personifies the hashtag state of being. So I don't want to share anything that you don't want to share, but let's just say, and of course you're welcome to tell people whatever you want to tell them, but let's just say you're not located specifically in Colorado. So tell everybody how you became such a, not just a passionate, outgoing Broncos fan, but you're a knowledgeable Broncos fan.
For sure. And obviously a lot of the knowledge comes from this channel and all the wonderful creators. But so my parents, before they had me and my brother, I have a twin brother actually. And so they went to Cabo and met this couple who was from Denver. They became great friends. And my parents later on was having trouble trying to have kids. So they went to Denver to do in vitro, which still don't fully understand what that is. I'd have to ask. But so we were stirred up in Denver, as my dad likes to say. And we were brought back to California when we were born. And when we were born, my dad's friend Rick from Denver sent a bunch of Broncos stickers, onesies, everything you can imagine. And for some reason, that kind of stuck with me. He indoctrinated me, if you will. Didn't quite get my brother. He's a Ravens fan, not as of recently, since we used to play the Madden 04 game, and they had a pretty good defense there, so he kind of latched on to them. But yeah, that's how I became a Broncos fan. A little different than others, I'd say, but yeah.
Cool. First of all, Dylan, stand up and show your shirt off. That's number one. Give our audience.
Like this. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. There it is. Hashtag football priest. Second of all, Dylan, you've seen the show enough, obviously. You know where I'm going with this. You've been a Broncos fan long enough now. What has been your crowning achievement being a part of Broncos country, and what has been the moment where you kind of want to hide in the bushes and not want to be associated with this team anymore?
Hashtag Bronco babies.
Man. Well, obviously, at Super Bowl 50, I mean, just being able to see a Super Bowl and win one in my lifetime, that to me is amazing, because I was born in 99, so just missing the boat on the previous two. But yeah, that's got to be number one. And gosh, the worst, I don't know, this off season's been pretty hectic, you know, yeah. But it's I don't know, you know, there seems to be the most division that I've seen this offseason, whether it be quarterback or head coach,
True. I would agree with you. I've been obviously, I've been a Broncos guy dating back to the freaking early 80s, but as someone that's covered the Broncos and has to know every intimate detail that's going on with the team day to day to day, maybe outside of the Trevor versus Paxton, maybe outside of there were a lot of Tebow truthers. Zach, I know this predated your time on the Bronco beat, but there were a lot of Tebow truthers that when the Broncos went out and signed the biggest fish in NFL history, right, Peyton Manning, there was a large swath of Broncos country that frankly did not want Peyton Manning. They wanted Tim Tebow to be the guy because it was such a sensational 2011 season. Do you have memories, Dylan, of that 2011 campaign with Tebow?
A lot of anxiety, more like it. It's just, the Tebow Mania stuff was great, but I never saw it to be sustainable. I mean, I've had a lot of people argue with me that, in today's system and stuff, but were we realistically going to wait that long for him to develop and this new wave of offensive coordinators and their systems coming? I don't think so.
Go ahead, Zach.
I was gonna say those Tebow truthers have rebranded as Brett Rippin truthers because his fan base is wild, Chad. Only like Tebow, it's like a cult. Dylan, I don't want to make any assumptions, but where do you stand with the quarterback? Where do you stand? I mean, it's the hot button issue, obviously. Sure. Would you make that trade for Deshaun Watson that we went over? Would you give up the farm and everything on it and replace Drew Lock? If you were GM, what would you do?
Man, I could see it both ways. There's reason to give Drew another year, but me personally, until I see more positives than excuses, I'll believe he's the guy. I'm still pulling for him. I'm not going to be a hater here, guys. I don't flip flop or anything, but I want to stay in the middle and just be optimistic. As for Watson, God, I'd love to have him. 3 first-round picks, I see those as lottery tickets to. I see him as more as a sure thing than others might. It's going to take more than what that article was saying. I mean, 3 first-round picks, a couple seconds, that'll get you in the door. I'm not sure if that's going to, get you in.
Yes, that is our concern as well, because it was put to me a certain way by a pretty plugged-in dude late last week that it's not just 3 1s. And you guys might remember me saying this last night, all right, on last night's pod. 3 1s, 2 2s, 3 1s and or 2. Hold on, let me do this again. 3 1s, 2 2s, and or 2 cornerstone players. So it's not ruling out the cornerstone defensive players on top of the 5 premium round draft picks, which that just guts your team. And look, if you are Tom Brady, if you are Peyton Manning, maybe you can overcome those holes and that deficiency. And that's what the truly elite quarterbacks of all time are able to do. And I just think I have to disagree a little bit with PFF in that I don't think Watson has proven that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm with Zach on this, that if you bring in Watson, Dylan, I think you have a short-term bump. I do think you end up probably being a factor in 2021. My question is, then what happens beyond this season? Because, again, you've gutted your future.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think there's also, when you have the guy at quarterback, there's even when the turnover happens, because you see in 5 years, the Panthers have, one player remaining from that Super Bowl squad, and we only have 2. There's a lot of turnover there. And if you can get that franchise guy, that makes that turnover just a little easier. But obviously giving up that capital, it's hard to say, like, can you first round picks are important, but I believe teams are built through the second, third rounds and beyond, because you get 1 first round pick, sometimes 2, but just depending. But yeah, I see the concern for sure.
Speaking of that, Dylan, I just want to pick your brain. Assuming they don't make that trade and they hold on to their draft picks, I know it's a kind of a fairly obvious question or answer, but where would you go at number 9 overall? Would you hold on to that pick? Would you take Caleb Farley? Would you take an inside linebacker? Again, you're the GM. What would you do?
I know not a lot of people are going to like this. I'm more of an advocate for trading down. We stay at 9. I think Farley's the guy far and away. Depending, maybe Trey Lance, but that's more on how Peyton feels, obviously. But I'm more of a proponent of trading back, just because I know he likes, to have more darts to throw at the dartboard. I could see, like trading down. Ideally, I would like to try and get someone like Azeez Ojulari, or maybe Eric Stokes, and then you could, depending on what capital you get, say you get another second or third round pick, that's just another edge, or maybe even a second corner you could take to add depth to this team, because we're just desperate at corner at this point.
Let me ask you this, Dylan. And by the way, I agree with you. Tip of the cap to, teams teams that win the draft are the teams that don't necessarily, draft rock stars in the first round, but the teams that win second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. I mean, look at the 2015 Broncos as a prime example of this, right? Starting center who had played at a Pro Bowl level, Matt Paradis, 1 year removed from being a 6th round pick. All right, let's look at the defense. Malik Jackson, I almost said Malik Reed. Malik Jackson, a couple years removed from being a 5th round pick, starter on defense. Danny Trevathan, a couple years removed from being a 6th round pick. Brandon Marshall didn't get drafted by the Broncos, but got drafted by Jacksonville in the mid rounds. And the list goes on. So it's absolutely true that that's what you risk giving up if you just go hell-bent for high water and give up the entire farm going for Watson. I understand the allure. But it scares me a little too much.
Understandably so.
The thing is, he's a moderate, though. At least he realizes that you're not supposed to jump ship necessarily on Drew Lock yet. If you have a chance to get Watson, great, but you also realize that it's, to already discard him, I think is a little knee-jerk as well. So that the fact that you're kind of a centrist when it comes to this discussion is obvious. It's actually refreshing to me, Dylan. You're not just one camp or the other.
For sure. And the whole thing with Drew is, it'd obviously be amazing if he was the guy. I don't believe it right now. I could see it happening, and obviously you have the offensive coordinator problems with Shermer. I think a lot of the growth that you saw was because Shermer's, and I hate that they said dumbed down. He simplified it. It was here's my base offense, instead of at the beginning of the season where it was probably here's the full offense. We're gonna do my full complicated system and whatnot. You just get it simplified and bare bones, because that's what the offensive coordinator should do. If your quarterback's struggling, your young quarterback, strip it down, keep things simple. And we saw that from around the Dolphins game on. I think that's where he decided, maybe I should take it a little more seriously. You got a young quarterback,
Amen. We got Christy, the queen of MHH, jumping in with a super chat and a message. She says, awesome job, Dylan. Thanks for being a great Broncos fan. And of course, everybody knows Christy, but shout out to the queen.
All right, thank you, Christy.
All right, here's one last question for you, Dylan. And then John, if it's possible to throw up Chris's super chat again, because I wasn't able to actually address it. We got it on camera, but I want to grab that again. All right, so your very salient point about how, the way you win the draft is by hitting in the mid to later rounds too. Let me ask you this though. With Drew Lock, as let's just say the Broncos run it back with Drew, all right? And let's just assume for a second you don't get Von Miller back, all right? So it just doesn't end up working out. 5 years of ineptitude, 5 years of the doldrums. George Payton can't afford to be too sentimental at this stage, and let's just say he moves on. All right, but you still got Bradley Chubb. You got Malik Reed. Maybe maybe they do, like you said, and they trade back and grab the edge rusher from Georgia, all right? Maybe they grab another corner in the second, and they start filling those holes in the draft, right, on defense. Meanwhile, you're getting Cortland Sutton back. You're getting Judy in year 2. You're getting Fant in year 3. You're getting Locke in year 2 of the Shermer offense. You're getting KJ in year 2. You're getting back Albert O. And you filled these holes on defense and getting a lot of those injured guys back as well, including Callahan, what would you expect? What would your expectations be for this team with some of those holes filled with well-made draft picks and maybe a couple of, I'm going to assume Justin Simmons comes back as well. What would you see? What do you think it would be another crap fest like 2020, or do you think this would be a competitive outfit?
Man, I mean, if we keep that injury bug away, I could see us. Well, we have to make the playoffs, right? Like, I mean, it's put up or shut up this year, especially for this coaching staff. Gosh, it just really depends on. It's on Drew Lock this year, especially. I think, especially if everyone stays healthy. And even I'm assuming we take another running back or receiver late, because you never know. Cortland's contract's coming up. Who knows if we keep Tim Patrick past this year? But I do think it's mostly on Drew Lock, and obviously the defense had its problems as well. Yeah, that's how I see that.
So gun to your head right now. It's February 22nd. I know things can and will change, until September. Where do the Broncos finish next season? Does Fangio retain his job? I'm asking the hard-hitting questions, Dylan, while I got you on here tonight, man.
Yeah, man. Jeez. I want to say the hopeful part of me says 10-6 as the ceiling, because I think we still have a pretty young team. Even going to your second year, it's not like, oh, it just finally clicks, But again, who knows what Drew will do? It just really all hinges on the quarterback position for me.
One last super chat message here from Chris Hernandez, who has been on the show before, and he's going to be on the show again here in the near future. But appreciate you, Chris. He says, "Great to see you, Dylan." And I got to concur. It's been really fun getting to know you a little bit on the show tonight and to chat. I mean, we've gotten to know you a little bit over the years in the chats and whatnot, right? But being able to talk with you before we went live, being able to chat with you tonight here on camera and pick your brain a little bit, it's been great. And as we sign off, let me just say, we are extremely grateful, Dylan, for all of your support, A, and B, your contributions to the community. And also going to bat and helping out in the chat as a moderator. And so just understand that we are very grateful to have you as a core member of this community, and we appreciate it all. And we'll get you back on the show in the near future. And by the way, you crushed it, dude. You did a great job. So thanks for coming on, my friend.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm just glad I have a community to come to every day after work and just talk my favorite football team.
That's right.
That's what we're here for, man.
Throw this man a follow, Broncos country. John, his banner's up at Arx_D. Great Broncos fan. Great follow on Twitter. You might want to hop on that if you're on Twitter.
Yes, absolutely. Great Twitter follow. Very engaged. And as you can tell, this is a guy that knows what he's talking about when it comes to your Denver Broncos and the draft and the NFL and today's game. So, Dylan, again, it's been a pleasure, and we'll look forward to getting you on the show here in the near future. I mean, we've got a whole off season still to go that's going to be replete with continual superstar segments. So we'll get you back on maybe when there's been a little more movement. We have something more to kind of sink our teeth into and get your take on. But nevertheless, my friend, have a great night, and we'll, of course, circle back and continue the conversation in the chat and on Twitter.
All right. Thanks, guys, and thank you, Broncos country. I'll talk to you in the chat.
All right, my friend. There he goes.
Thanks, Dylan.
Dylan Von Arx, an absolute stud and just a valuable member of this community. And it's kind of funny. Like I'm not trying to out him a little or at all right? But sometimes people get a little bit nervous when the lights go on. He's like, I don't know if I'm gonna be nervous. He didn't say he was nervous. I don't know if I'm gonna be nervous or not. And we're like, no, you'll be fine. Sure enough, crushed it. Right? Absolutely crushed it.
We're just talking. Like I told him, we're just talking Broncos. We're all just hanging out in the virtual bar chat in these times right now. We're just talking the sports team that we all invest so much energy and time in. So I thought he did a great job, and he's done so much for our community, Chad. I mean, moderating the comments. If you guys noticed how well Facebook has gone and the pod has gone, it's because of people like John, people like Dylan. Their contributions to us are invaluable. So we cannot say that enough.
As well as Mr. Boggins, who's gone above and beyond helping out on Facebook as a moderator too. We want to shout him out, and he's going to be back on the show in the near future. So this week we've got David Kilgore making his debut on the show. Longtime excuse me, super chat superstar. The following Wednesday is Boggins. All right, Boggins is going to be on again on the 3rd, and then we got Jay Ritchie on the 10th. And by the way, Jay, I didn't get perfect confirmation on that, so maybe you or the missus reach out and double check that with me. And then Chris Hernandez on the 17th of March. And then Ed Keating on the 24th. 31st, no one is booked because I'm going to be on vacay, but that doesn't mean we won't necessarily have one, but I just kind of want to leave that one open for a minute, and even more to come in April. So this is fun, man. And I don't know, man, there's a lot of our competitors out there in the podcast realm, Zach, they might be like, why are the analysts bringing on the fans? It's like, dude, we love talking to these guys. Like and the gals that we bring on this show, like we love it. We love to know how they found us, how they became Broncos fans. And the community loves it too. So I think this is something that we kind of stumbled onto as a unique aspect of what we do.
If they have to ask that question, they're already losing the race. That's all I'll say to our competitors.
Boom. Speaking of superstars, we've got Christian in the house. And I'm curious, Christian, do I pronounce your last name De Jesus? All right. Let me know. All right. I've always wondered, but appreciate you. And this is a guy in enemy territory. All right. This is a cat making his way, crushing it as a professional lifeguard in Vegas. Okay. So this guy, he deserves your respect. It seems likely, says Christian, with each passing day that Brittany Boland will succeed her dad in the coming months. Well, if Joe Ellis gets what he wants, you better believe it. But this still hasn't gone before that judge, and Beth Boland and Amy Clemmer, his two oldest daughters, still have a bone to pick.
Well, it won't be Jeff Bezos. I think he's going to be buying the Washington football team fairly soon. There's a rumor that he's been negotiating with the firm that's trying to sell their stakes off. It's probably going to be. I never thought it was going to be an outside buyer for the Broncos. They want to keep it in family if possible. And Brittany Boland compared to Beth Boland Wallace, there's no contest there. Brittany is the finer choice.
All right, John, real quick. So here's what we need. I am at. Let me double check this. Hold on real quick. I want to say it's Mike. Yes, we need a JT. I'm at about 627, and that's where Mike's at. So there's real quick, and then we'll grab JT. We've got in between that, we've got Team Jokic, Chris P, who you flashed, but I still want to shout him out. And then we should be good. All right, from there where I'm at. So JT, everyone knows JT. Had him on the show last week. Another superstar segment that was just absolutely crushed
phenomenal.
Out of the park. So
yes, sir.
Love you, bro. Good to see you. Hope the baby and the fam are doing well. He says, Peyton needs to ask himself, is Watson generational? Are we Watson away from a Super Bowl? Do we have the pieces in place, both on offense and defense, to feel okay giving up the price for Watson? I'm going no to all. That's where I'm at, dude. And maybe if you haven't, go read my article on this PFF mock today, because I grasp at those same issues, all right? Those very same issues. And it's interesting because we showed you last night, we played the clip from Justin Simmons live stream. We even built an article around it, excuse me, that we published last night at milehighhuddle.com. Go give it a read. Justin Simmons was about to call him, Watson, a generational talent, but he stopped himself, Zach, here. He went, he's a and then he moved on to a different thing. I don't know why he chose to stop himself there, but is he a generational talent? I think Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent. Watson, not there yet. For me, I'm not willing to quite call him that, although he is a good young QB. I mean, there's a lot to love about this dude. It's not like if the Broncos did land him, they're getting some kind of chopped liver. I mean, this dude is a star. He is a stud. And by the way, what up, Cody?
Is that synonymous with Hall of Fame level talent? Because to me, Deshaun Watson's not a Hall of Fame level talent. I think he's a top 5 quarterback. I'll say it again, but is he a Mahomes? No. Is he a Manning? No. And I just think his worth overall is a little inflated because of what he's been put through in Houston. But generational talents, Chad, aren't just 1 and 2 in the playoffs. Generational talents lift their team despite everything else past a 4-12 record. And I know it's going to be misinterpreted. Everything I say is about Deshaun Watson. Unless you praise him and get on your knees, then you're bad and you're in the wrong. I'm just not quite there yet. JT, I agree with the premise of what you're saying. He's a phenomenal quarterback, but is he generational? What's one tier below that, Chad? Excellent. That's where I think Deshaun Watson is.
I think that's fair. I mean, look, if he was that guy, why didn't he take a bottom 10 team like the Texans last year? And why weren't they more of a force to be reckoned with, notwithstanding all their holes, right? Because if you are that force to be reckoned with, if you are the tide that raises all ships, what makes you think he couldn't do it in Houston in 2020, but he could do it in Denver? Oh, well, it's just a different team. And there's some truth to that. This is not I think the Broncos are a lot more, they're better positioned, let's just say, from a talent perspective, especially on offense, for a guy like Watson to step in and that offense just rocket into the stratosphere. But defensively, they have some pieces. They have the Chubbs. They have the Simmons. We'll see. Vaughn, we'll see what happens there. But Houston had some defensive pieces last year as well. I mean, kind of more sparsely sparsely situated there. But nevertheless, there are more similarities between the 2020 Texans and the 2021 Broncos than people, I think those fans who are just pining and hoping against hope, are willing to acknowledge that.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, you can't say he's led Houston to division titles and all this playoff success and then exonerate him for only being 1-2. If he was that good, despite the coaching, despite everything else, he'd have a better record overall. And we're only focusing, and this is why his worth is a little inflated this offseason, is everyone is focusing on the dumpster fire that the Texans became. But a few years ago, they were not a dumpster fire, Chad. They had J.J. Watt, they had Deshaun Watson, they had DeAndre Hopkins. They had talent on both sides of the ball, and they were a perennial contender. It's just that Deshaun Watson never got him over the edge, even in his prime, or even in the prime of the Texans, the previous regime. So again, he is amazing. He's a phenomenal quarterback, but generational, I think I would stop just short of that.
I would too. Let's grab this super chat from another one of our great longtime listeners, a Mount Rushmore cat. And Dave, hey, dude, you're retired now? By the way, congrats. I know I've told you that before, but congrats. Hope you're enjoying retirement. We've never had you on the show. So if you'd like to come on the show, you reach out. You know how to get a hold of me, and we'll set up a time. Well, we prefer Wednesdays if at all possible, but if not, we can, just like tonight with Dylan, we can work around it. But reach out, my friend. We'd love to get to chat with you a little bit. But he says, Watson can't win with what the Broncos would have to give up, especially with the current coaching staff. Yeah, I mean, look, and someone came, by the way, again, thank you, Dave. Someone came at me over, what was it, on YouTube? I think it was a comment on YouTube that I'm hating too much on Vic Fangio, or I'm not giving him enough love and respect. And look, I think for what it's worth, Zach, Vic Fangio is, I've been pretty consistent on this, okay? This is not like new. Vic Fangio is one of the top 5 defensive minds in the NFL currently, bar none. All right, top 5. He's there, all right? But is he a top 5 head coach? 2 losing seasons tells you no. We already know the answer to that. Why? Why isn't he a top 5 head coach? Well, we've seen it, the problems with juggling the game day decisions, the in-game decisions, some questionable coaching firings and hirings, some questionable player decisions too, like the weird way that Drew was handled in his rookie year, the weird back and forth with Bosby. Some of the players that were allowed to continue seeing the field despite constantly stepping on their own, with a guy that was perceived to be as good, if not maybe better, waiting in the wings that he could have stepped in. Just a lot of stupid little things that over time have contributed to him not being that top 5 head coach. But I'm not completely off Fangio either in terms of saying he couldn't become that. Like, most human beings, we learn through trial and error. All right. You learn way more by failure than you do by success, believe it or not. All right. You might hear that at, Anthony Robbins seminars, but it's true. All right. You learn more from failures than you do success. And if that's the case, Zach, I mean, by this point, 2 years in, Vic Fangio has a PhD in head coach NFL. So at some point you would hope that would serve him as the Broncos head man.
I think he's flunking his PhD for NFL head coach. He's closer to a bottom 5 head coach than he's a top 5 head coach. And you pair that with a bottom 5 special teams coordinator in Tom McMahon, a bottom 5 offensive coordinator in Pat Shurmur. What is the allure? And if Deshaun Watson does come here, and he would sign off on it, but the Texans have to agree to the trade as well. If he's shipped here and the Broncos don't go on to have success, if Fangio coaches smaller, Pat Shurmur, God forbid, continues to be Pat Shurmur, what is stopping Deshaun Watson from doing the same thing he's doing now in Houston and doing in Denver and forcing his way out in a few years. There's no guarantee. Just like first-round picks, it's a lottery. You never know what you're going to get. There's no guarantee that Deshaun Watson is going to lead the Broncos to a title or even a division crown. He did it one time in 2019. Incidentally enough, the AFC South at that time wasn't as strong, and that's when Andrew Luck retired from the Colts. So I'm not going to say it was an easy path to a division title, but he's done it once. To call him generational or lump him in with Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes is hyperbole, and to me, an inflation of his own worth.
Yeah, it's a bridge too far. It really is. Team Jokic, Christian in the house, has become a bona fide superstar, and quick too. I mean, Christian came out of he's I don't want to say left field, but he came out of nowhere, so to speak, like so many of our great superstars have over the years. Zach, they go from being listeners to boom, and then they're active in the community, boom, then they're superstars. But Christian, it has been great to have you. We appreciate your support, and it's been cool as well to connect with you on Twitter. He says, I hate all the holes in the defense narrative by only Zach.
Only me.
I'm
the only one that ever brought that narrative up.
Hold on. Only by Zach. Last year, our DVOA on defense ranked 14th overall with half our defense on IR. With Watson, we will still have an elite offense and an above average defense. I think listen, Zach, that's a place where Fangio deserves some credit because his coaching acumen was, as a defensive guy, was able to cover some of those holes. But Christian, to defend my co-host here, my partner, are you rebutting the notion that the Broncos defense doesn't have some pretty serious and significant holes right now? I mean, is that what you're saying? I'm looking for clarity.
It's not my opinion. It's not a myth. It's not a theory. It's not some conspiracy against, Deshaun Watson or the Broncos. They have various holes throughout their roster. And even if they re-sign Shelby Harris, they're probably going to cut Terrell Casey. They need defensive linemen. They cut AJ Boye. Bryce Callahan's no guarantee. They need inside linebackers. They need help on every level of the defense. They need help on every level of the offense for the most part. Again, would Deshaun Watson be good in Denver? Yes, of course. Is he a good quarterback? Yes. But is there any guarantee? I see this in the comments as well. And real quick, ML, nice to see you. Keep hating. I appreciate you. There's no guarantee Deshaun Watson will be here for 10 years. There's no guarantee he's going to lead them to a title. So it works both ways. I'm going to always poke holes in both sides of the argument, chat. There's a middle ground to fall on here.
Indeed. Quick shout out to Cody for the stars. All right. To Brad Murdoch, also one of our supporters. By the way, Cody, consider becoming a supporter, my friend, and get access to Kelberman's Corner and other VIP content. We got Charles as well. Thank you for those stars. We do appreciate you. A lot of supporters in here. Drew, love. Hey, man, next step, become a supporter. Appreciate you, dog. Real quick, because I should probably start doing this more often, Zach, in terms of we've tried to find a way, because unfortunately with StreamYard, you can pull super chats and put them on screen. Star comments on Facebook at this point, there isn't a way to do that. And so this is maybe the best workaround. But Drew, thank you for those stars. That's a 3-week streak. Really, really appreciate it, my friend. And then it wants to kind of freeze. Hold up real quick. I'll come back to a few, but appreciate each and every one of you on Facebook. Let's grab here Mike Evans. And by the way, Mike, our correspondence, I'm going to be touching base with you tonight. So look for that email. Appreciate you. Bonafide superstar. Got the stadium in the background. Huddle Up podcast t-shirt. He's Mike Evans. Would you recommend to George Payton, asks Mike, to keep or cut Jarrell Casey? And how would your advice impact the future of the D-line? Appreciate y'all. That's a really good question, Zach. You start on this one.
I think we differ on that a little bit. I think you would be more inclined to keep Jarrell Casey at a reduced salary, where I'm more inclined to kind of cut bait and put that money and those resources toward paying Shelby Harris, drafting defensive linemen, replenishing through the draft. You have some veterans there. You have to add some youth as well. There's a reason why, and I was maybe ignorant or blind to this at the time then because I thought it was such a steal for Elway to get a 5-time Pro Bowler for a 7th-round pick, but there's a reason why a 5-time Pro Bowler went for a 7th-round pick, and he showed that last year that he's entering, I believe, the back nine of his career, Jarrell Casey. He's just not worth his money. I don't think he's ever going to be the star he once was, and again, I put those resources toward #pay Shelby.
Yeah, I would be interested in keeping Jarrell, but I don't think the level I'd be interested, or Peyton for that matter. We'll see. I could be wrong on this with Peyton, but I'll just speak for myself. I don't think the level, by the way, Chris P, appreciate that super chat. He says, you're doing a good job. Thank you, my friend. Share this video out if that's your opinion. But I'd be willing to pay him like $5-6 million if he wanted to stick around on a contract like that. But because he is a 5-time Pro Bowler, even though his teeth are getting a little long, right? He's getting some gray in that beard. I think he'd be more inclined to say thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to test the market based on my resume. I think I can get more than that, at which point I'd say, peace out, catch you later. Shelby Harris, here's your multi-year deal. So it's not for me a complete no or non-starter for that matter. It's just it definitely would be conditional, Zach, no doubt about it.
I think he'd want to play for a contender too. The only way he's going to take less money is for a team that's going to let him compete for a title. And, again, those resources you'd save from cutting him, it wouldn't just be Shelby Harris. The money you have left over can go toward Justin Simmons. You can pay other people on the roster. That's what I would do. I would want to get younger at that position, not get older.
Gary, thank you for the stars, my friend. That's a 4-week streak. Dude, you are crushing it. Drew, again, with a 3-week streak. Appreciate you guys. All right, let me see where we're at here. And by the way, Christian, no hard feelings, dog. I mean, that's one of the great things about this community and being a part of a community. It's like being a part of a family. Sometimes you're going to disagree. Sometimes you'll go at it a little bit. It's like my teenage sons. Man, if you didn't know any better sometimes during the day, you'd think these two were arch enemies, right? And then they sit down at the dinner table at 6 o'clock or whatever. And, how's your day? Oh, cool. Yeah. What about this chick in school? They start talking like they're like their brothers, because they are. That's how it is. So we might not always see eye to eye, but just understand that we do love you. So let me see where we're at here. We are at 46 minutes, so we got a little bit of time. We're good, but we do kind of keep this one tight because I got an event that I gotta take care of this evening, and so let's grab this one from Chris, and then I want to grab one here from Leroy on Facebook. Blue Raw. No, it's okay. Throw him back on, John. Where'd he go? There he is. He says, thank you, Chris. He says, I watched some film on Malik Reed. I'd be content with letting Vaughn walk. I wouldn't be the happiest, but I'd be okay with it. Zach, obviously you're ready to jump on this one. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was going to say it's a hot take alert, but I think I'm higher on Malik Reed than you are. I don't rank him that high where I'm willing to let Vaughn walk, and I'm comfortable letting Vaughn walk because we have Malik Reed. I'd rather have him as an option with another guy platooning or behind another guy. He's a great number 3 outside linebacker to have, a great pinch starter, but not a guy that you let a perennial Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer walk away from because you have him on the roster. They can get more out of him. I mean, he was an 8-sack guy last year?
Led the team.
Is that what he I mean, he could be a 10-sack guy with a better season. You always want to have those guys, but do I see a multi-year starter, a linchpin to Bradley Chubb? I'm not quite there yet.
And a lot of people, because, Shaq never got 8 sacks in a single season in Denver, all right? And he played on some phenomenal defenses, right, as a Bronco. And so people go, well, Malik Reed could be the next Shaq Barrett. Maybe. I'm not ruling that out. I don't see it. I see Malik Reed as a very, very, very limited edge rusher. I think in a perfect world, he's your 3rd or 4th guy. He's not your linchpin that you go to war with and just, rest on your laurels saying, we got Chubb, we got Malik, we're good to go. In the same way that you would if it was, we got Chubb, we got Vaughn, we're good to go. So if you did move on from Vaughn, it's good that you have that experience now and a veteran that has shown he can produce in the league, all right? But he's not there yet, especially as a run defender. And seriously, a lot of those rushes that Malik Reed, those sacks, I should say, that Malik Reed got in 2020, Zach, so many of them ended up being coverage sacks. I mean, even for Chubb, by the way, a lot of them were those coverage sacks. It's not like Von Miller in his peak and at his prime and what most people think of in their mind's eye when you hear the name Von Miller, of a dude straight winning his one-on-one, whether it's bending the edge and blowing by the tackle or winning on a power move inside. You didn't see that type of just straight up taking a man, moving him against his will, and winning the rep from Malik or Chubb, which is why I think we were a little bit surprised Chubb got the Pro Bowl, but still hats off to him. We're stoked to see Chubb get that PB.
Yeah, and the thing about Vaughn and even Shaq Barrett to an extent is they were better against the run than Malik Reed is. When you said limited outside linebacker, he's a decent pass rusher, but he's not great against the run. So he's a rotational guy in a best case scenario, a starting guy in a worst case scenario. But think of this. If one of those trade scenarios went through, the Broncos are looking at starting Malik Reed at outside linebacker opposite who? If they get rid of Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, it's Malik Reed and fill in the blank. That's not a great situation to be in.
No doubt about it. All right, let's grab this from Leroy, one of our dedicated listeners and members of our Facebook community. Appreciate you, Leroy. He says, go with Locke if the other teams are not in the sweepstakes to get Watson. Trade for him next year. By then, Fangio and Pat Shurmur will be gone, and Peyton can bring in his own head coach. What do you guys think?
That's probably the plan.
Yeah. I still am of the opinion I'm more inclined to run it back one more year with Drew. And like we talked about when Dylan was on with us, invest right now in the draft in filling your holes, do also in free agency. I mean, you got to get Simmons back. You got to get Harris back if you can. But other than that, man, use the draft to really bolster your roster. And you're going to get a lot of guys who were injured last year back. And I think you can win with Drew. And you have a little bit of hope. You have a little bit of optimism. It's not something that you can bank on, but it's a little bit of hope that the 18 starts that he now has under his belt, Zach, and the full year under his belt in Shurmur's scheme, and all that will serve him year 3. Maybe not the big pop guy like we were hoping he might be last year, but still a competent, capable starter who can go out there and surprise you. Like if you got Drew Lock week 11 through week 17 in 2021 with the guys back that I just mentioned from health, and then also from injury, and then also the draft. I think that's a 9, 10, 11 win team if you get that version of Drew. The problem is we don't know if you're going to get that because Drew did show just enough erraticism last year, Zach, to be alarming to a point where you can't really count on him. You can't set your watch to him. You don't know yet what version of Drew you're going to get on a given game day.
I know it's not fashionable or favorable right now or popular to say status quo is going to reign supreme in Denver this season, but that is exactly what it's looking like, and barring a blockbuster trade that we've never seen before in the NFL for Deshaun Watson. It never made sense to me, Chad, that a first-time general manager would come in and be stuck with a lame duck head coach, and that's what Vic Fangio is. Unless he makes the playoffs, he will be fired. You have a lame duck offensive coordinator, maybe a lame duck quarterback. It makes no sense to have those factors and bring in Deshaun Watson on top of all of it. So I got a comment here from Tyler. I'm not going to pull it up, but he said Watson won't be available for trade next offseason. He will be traded before that. That may be true, but we didn't know Deshaun was going to be available this offseason a year ago. You don't know next year who's going to be up for trade. It could be Russell Wilson. It could be, Aaron Rodgers. We don't know yet, but run it back with Drew. Run it back with the coaching staff. If it doesn't work out, Peyton has the autonomy, which he will, and execute it to fire everyone out of the building, pink slip everyone, and start over with his guys, from the coaches to the quarterback on down.
I would see what I could do to keep Bill Kolar and Mike Munchak, though, for what it's worth.
Yes. Two exceptions.
Right. Real quick before we grab Levi, John, as we approach the 53-minute mark, after Levi, we need Willie, Anthony, Rogue Theory, John, James, Dehane, and then one more Levi, and then we're good to go. And we got to keep this one kind of tight tonight, guys, because of my schedule, so apologies on that. Levi, love you, bro. Can't wait to get you on the show. He says, I like Locke and I like Watson. I'm just ready for Watson to go somewhere so we can all move on and support whoever is our quarterback. We feel you on that. We really do.
Yes. I feel you on a spiritual level. I want this resolved one way or the other, because every podcast now, Chad, every video we do, every article is Deshaun Watson. It's kind of just muddying the waters a little bit.
I would love to be able to transition fully to free agency and the draft and the speculation. But this is it's like a burr under your saddle, something stuck in your craw. Like the news cycle is not allowing us to get off the Deshaun Watson thing. So I feel you on that, Levi. I really do. Willie, superstar, love you, bro. He says, if you give up everything for Watson, you got to let coaches go too. We won't be competitive a year or two, but better be ready year or two or three at the least. Excuse me. If you give up everything for Watson, you got to let coaches go too. I'm not sure what he means by that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, with Philly, though, in terms of, I think year one, again, if you do land Watson and you're George Payton, I think because of some of the guys that were hurt last year that you're getting back, I think there's a good, better than average chance that you'll be a factor in 2021. But then I worry about what comes next in 2022 and beyond, because you just gutted your draft war chest, for lack of a better term. Real quick here. Go ahead, Zach.
Real quick, you make that trade when you're going to win a title in a year or two, not to be competitive in a year or two. If they wait that long and they make that trade, Deshaun Watson will do the same thing he's doing in Houston in Denver.
Dylan, by the way, jumping into the chat to say, quarterback allows consistency when there is roster turnover over 4 or more years. The real question is, can you keep a good team together while you find that QB? That is the question. And up to this point, obviously, John Elway proved he was not up to that particular task. Hence, the new GM. Dina Dreth, hi all, Broncos fan from Perth, Australia. Wow, Rad. Good to see you. Appreciate you.
What time is it there? It's like the next day, isn't it?
It's the next day.
It's like Wednesday by now. Thank you.
Wednesday. Yep. Anthony Baldelli, appreciate the super chat. Connect with us on Twitter. With Watson, you're not just losing draft capital. He also carries a big cap hit. Good point. Not this season, but next. If Locke pans out, he's not going to be as expensive. Well, that's a good point, Anthony, but it still ends up being a pretty close to Six's proposition, because if Locke works out, depending on how you define Locke working out, let's just say emerges as a top 15 quarterback. Let's just say that's pretty, almost everyone could agree. What's your version of Locke working out? Top 15 quarterback. All right, cool. Well, this is year 3. By this time next year, the Broncos are going to have to start thinking about an extension. And if he is a top 15 quarterback, guess what those quarterbacks cost now? $30 million
at least.
Year.
Yeah.
So,
and rising.
It is what it is. But that's a problem. It's like you hear that phrase, it's a good problem to have. Almost every GM would love to have that problem, where you're figuring out how to keep your top 15 quarterback and pay him $30+ million to be competitive. It's a got man league.
Didn't we, to the previous question about Dylan, though, that he asked, to keep a good team competitive until you find a quarterback? I know it may be a little of a stretch, but didn't the Bucs just do that with Tom Brady? They fielded a defense that took down Mahomes. They needed a quarterback to get them there. But there's big examples of a lot of teams. The Ravens, for example, until they got Lamar Jackson. Even the Titans, until they got Ryan Tannehill in the lineup. You can keep a competitive winning team until you find that franchise quarterback. But Drew Lock, we just don't know what he is yet. Is he bottom 5, top 10, top 15? That is the question. We're not advocating because he's Drew Lock and he deserves immunity to be the quarterback forever, but we want to see what he is. We want a concrete answer before we judge one way or the other.
Well said. One of our newer friends, one of our newer superstars, Rogue Theory, Josh in the house. Good to see you, bro. He says, sorry I'm late, guys. Out and about this afternoon, just showing some love. Keep up the good work, guys. No more Watson talk for me. Hashtag lock and load. Love it, dude. Appreciate you. John Houston, James, and Dahan. John, and then we're current with where I'm at. While you're pulling those up, let me grab – oh, you got John. See, this producer, Buona Beast. All right. John, thank you, my friend. Really appreciate your support over the years. He says, imagine trading the farm for Watson. 3 years of first-round picks. Then we lost for 2 years due to massive holes. And then he wants out of Denver. Did it once. I know. I feel you.
What do they say? And again, I'm not attacking his character. I'm making a reference to him as a football player. But what do they say about cheaters, Chad? That they'll always do it again?
Right.
They do it to you once, or if it happens to you once, never get in bed with a cheater because you'll get cheated on. And that's the same thing that they'll do, that Deshaun Watson, if they don't win here in 3 years, what is stopping him? Especially with his contract. He doesn't have a 10-year deal like Mahomes. His contract is coming up in a few years. And if you align his contract with a losing record or lack of playoff success, it's going to get ugly in the Mile High City.
Well said. James Moss jumping in. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you in the chat tonight. Appreciate your support. He says, young coaches have more success because they're innovative and can adjust to players. Old coaches stuck in their ways will not win. They can't let go. I feel you in a general sense, James, but Wade Phillips is a good example of a older coach that figured out how to vibe with kind of the new school. You know, when he came in, he was a chewed up and spit out 3-time NFL head coach, if you count his interim status in Dallas. Or was it interim? No, he was head coach. Either way, he was old news. He was an afterthought. In fact, John Elway and Gary Kubiak wanted Vance Joseph, the secondary coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, to be the defensive coordinator in 2015, but the Bengals blocked him. And so they said, well, hey, Coob's like, hey, look, I have a working history with Wade. So do you, John. Let's bring in Wade. And it just happened to be, boom, perfect timing, because that defense was just, all it needed was Wade. So there are some exceptions to that rule, but I do feel you. We got here, Levi, again. Thank you, bro. He says, if we do release Vaughn, do you think he would be petty and join a team in our division to go against the Broncos? I do. I could see him signing with the Chiefs. That's what he's thinking, right?
Chargers. He could join Chris Harris Jr. there. He has Herbert. I mean, I could see him joining the Chargers and being, listen, we have a young quarterback. I'm back with Chris Harris Jr., kind of rekindling the gang, getting it back together. But I don't know. I don't see him playing in Vegas, though. I don't see him playing for the Raiders. I think he does naturally hate them. The Chiefs, though, with Von Miller, that'd be a double whammy for Denver, because I think he still has gas left in the tank, and him providing that gas to the Chiefs, not a good situation.
Yeah, I could see it, though. And as much as I hate the idea, you see it all the time. I mean, Chris left Denver, went to L.A. There are countless examples of players when they defect from their original team. And the reason why is those opposing GMs and head coaches, they're used to scheming against that player twice a year. And so they know how valuable they are. And so they end up being the ones more interested oftentimes. Dehan jumping in. Thank you for that very generous super chat. He says, I think the only way Watson comes to Denver on draft day is on draft day. And if a QB is still on the board at 9 that Houston wants. If Watson only wants San Fran or Denver, he won't go to the Jets, Finns, or Panthers because of his no trade clause. I feel you on the no trade thing, because that's one thing that I questioned last night, Zach, during one of our conversations. Appreciate the shout out, Albert, for Kelberman's Corner. I don't understand the allure of the Jets. I can understand the allure of the Dolphins because there are some pieces there. And the coaching staff, I mean, they earned my props last year. Carolina, miss me on Carolina. If I'm Deshaun Watson, the only thing that makes me somewhat interested in Carolina, if I'm Deshaun, Zach, is the division is lacking a true juggernaut, especially if Drew Brees does retire as expected.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't consider that. He'd have some pieces on offense, too. If they don't trade McCaffrey in that deal for him, they would have 2 great wide receivers, an offensive mind in Joe Brady. It's very creative. And he tends to gravitate toward that, Chad. That's why you're questioning about the young coaching staff in Salah. He had a coordinator, Deshaun Watson, in Houston this year named Tim Kelly, a young, innovative mind. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of arguing against the Denver trade, because he's going to come here and go from that innovation and creativity to ... Pat Shurmur. And all those other teams listed for him have creative minds. If it's between Denver or San Francisco, there's no question to me at all. No debate.
John, I literally had just turned to the chat to begin typing Edward, and then boom, it flashed on the screen. So that means we're sharing a brain. Booyah. Appreciate you, Edward. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, we are looking forward to having you in a couple of weeks' time. So really appreciate your generosity. He says, let them hate, Zach. I agree with you. Watson might do the same to the Broncos as what he's doing with the Texans now. Keep up the good work, guys. Denver Broncos for life. Appreciate you, Doc. Thank you. Yeah, it's a concern. It's a concern. You know, you got to worry about it. Mr. Castillo, and I apologize, we got a rapid fire from here because I do have to go. Love you, Mr. Castillo. Connect on Twitter. He says, how important are first rounders outside of the top 10? Anyway, name more than one on the team on their second contract, not a top 5 player named Vaughn, and more than 2 that made all-pro in the last 10 years. Or if we're just keeping it with Denver, okay. Well, the top 10, outside of the top 10, all right, so Noah Fant, right? He's still on his first year or first contract. But here's the thing on that, Mr. Castillo. John Elway, across the league, people scratching their chins going, what the heck? How come this dude never re-signs his own guys? There was a total of 5 dudes John Elway drafted that got a second contract. So you don't want to use John Elway and the Broncos' recent track history of keeping their own as any kind of guiding light on this very topic.
I was going to say it says more about the Broncos than it does the argument you're trying to construct there. And why is all pro suddenly the barometer now? By that standard, Deshaun Watson is not worth it because he was never an all pro. Meanwhile, Bradley Chubb was a pro bowler. So the Broncos haven't had great drafting in that specific criteria, but you have to look at the situation with the Broncos. Up until the last 3 years, Elway was crap at drafting. Let's be honest here. He really was a bad drafter. And on top of that, he was adverse to signing his own players. When you combine those two mindsets, Chad, it's not a great situation or ingredient for success.
Dale, a bona fide superstar.
Wow.
Mount Rushmore guy. This is not the first time he's shown this level of generosity on this show and or to this channel, to our community. And all we can tell you, Dale, is we love you. We appreciate you. It just means so much to us. And we'd love to have you on the show at some point. So reach out to me. You know how to correspond, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and let's set up a time. It'd be great to have you on and get to know you a little bit and pick your brain on these issues and how you became a Broncos fan. I don't know if you're from Hawaii, but you're living in Hawaii, how that happened. It would be so much fun. So reach out to us. And seriously, dude, thank you so much, Dale. He says, no to Watson. Locke is a work in progress, but he made a lot of great throws. His TD to interception ratio are not much as a telltale sign of a franchise versus bust. But when you see a rookie or a sophomore quarterback having games where he makes 3 and 4 passing touchdowns in a game, it's a great sign. Great to be here. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. It's interesting because, and here he goes on. Wow, thank you again, Dale. By the way, you can check the game logs of all the greats versus the busts. Fact check that. All right, I'll check it out. I'll definitely check it out. Yeah. It's interesting you bring up touchdown to interception because, Locke gets dragged through the mud and clowned for being amongst the league leaders in interceptions, Zach, right? But we're not talking Jameis Winston, who, half of his TD-INT ratio completely inverted. Drew did throw one more touchdown than interception last year. All right. Wow. Thank you, Dale. Love you, bro. Smash the like button. Appreciate it. And then you go, oh, yeah, but what about his lost fumbles? Well, turns out he had 18. If you count the fumbles and the interceptions, he had 18 giveaways, Zach. But guess how many touchdowns he was responsible for when you count rushing touchdowns? 19. So he was still +1, which considering the mountain of obstacles he had to overcome last year, I think is something to hold on to. I think that's a silver lining that can be a positive harbinger that the Locke doomers right now, they don't want to hear it. They just want off Locke because there's a top 10 pick. And if not that, a Deshaun Watson potentially there for the taking.
And the Locke doomers all have the one commonality, and that's glancing over the box score and looking at the box score as their god, as the all-knowing barometer of success, where if you looked at the box score, you look at a game like the Patriots game where his receivers dropped pass after pass after pass. If you look at the games and you watch the Broncos like we do, Chad, you would notice the offensive play calling was not at all in tune for what a young quarterback like Locke should have been through last year. The pandemic, the injuries, the offensive line play. There were so many factors that go beyond the stats and beyond the stat sheet. And if you look at that objectively, you would see that he's not a bust yet, nor is he the franchise quarterback. The truth is in the middle, which is where Locke is.
But Dale's point, and again, Dale, reach out, let's get you on the show, is that there's enough there. There have been enough signs there to run it back one more year with him at least, to say, look, let's try this again with all of his weapons and with one more year in the scheme. And I agree with you on that. Chris P., thank you, my friend. I really got to hurry through the rest of these. He says, one more for Kelberman's rant. Spot on. The best take, in my opinion. Appreciate you, dog. John, Black Knight. Oh, there's Jeremy. Jeremy, you're another guy, dude. When are we getting you on the show? When are we getting you on, dude? Let's do it. Reach out. You know how to do it. Appreciate your super chat. If Elway's ego was not as big as his head, he would have done a hard reset and turned the roster over post Super Bowl 50 and started over. The Broncos are in this mess because of it. Whatever happens at this point happens. I agree that Elway fooled himself into thinking, Zach, he was that one middle-of-the-road quarterback away from winning it all.
It was, to me, though, I think the bigger gaffe there was the hiring of Vance Joseph. I mean, beyond any quarterback selection or quarterback gaffe, you had a chance to really reset your roster there and find the right guy. You passed on Kyle Shanahan to hire Vance Joseph, and that set the team back, Chad, at least 5 years now. And when Vance calls it a reboot and not a rebuild, I think that was a mistake as well. You needed a rebuild at that moment, and if you would have taken one by now, we wouldn't be staring at a playoff deficit, a playoff streak, Chad. We'd be talking about the relevancy of the Broncos.
It was almost unforgivable, Zach, to hire VJ over Kyle. I mean, almost unforgivable. But there's a little something that leads me to believe that wasn't all Elway's decision. I think there was probably some reticence on the part of the CEO of the club. This is me. This is not me reporting. This is me speculating, okay? To hire the son of Mike Shanahan, who up to that point, to this day, Mike Shanahan and Joe Ellis are not good friends. All right. They kind of have a adversarial relationship. Let's put it that way. So I'm always going to wonder, Zach, if John Elway, left to his own devices, had carte blanche on the hiring 100%, which we know he didn't. He had to get approval from Joe Ellis on the coaching side. Would he have hired Kyle Shanahan? We'll never know. But Andy Young, we got to hurry here. So thank you, Andy. We'll connect on Twitter, dog. He says, would love to see a roundtable podcast with all the staff on MHH. Grab some popcorn, see Nick and Zach talk about Wildfire Fire. Yeah, we've got some plans in the works to get Zach and Nick on a show together where they can kind of hash out some of their Drew Lock, exercise those demons, for lack of a better.
It wouldn't stay family friendly for very long. That's all I'll say.
Maybe we'll put it on like Patreon.
Yeah, we need pay-per-view. Forget Patreon, Chad. We're charging like $65. We're about to throw hands, Nick and I, over Drew Lock.
WWE. Dennis Woods, thank you, my friend. This is the last one, then we got to go. So thank you for that super. He says, appreciate you guys so much. I learned a lot from you both. And Dennis, by the way, as well, if you want to come on the show, I mean, you've been with us a long time. You've been supporting the show a long time. As a superstar, we'd love to get you on if you're interested, and don't get too, overwhelmed with all you need is, do you have a smartphone? If not, or do you have a tablet or a laptop? All right. From there, that's all you need. We'll take it from there. And it's pretty painless for you. So if you want to if you'd like to come on the show, reach out. We'd love to have you on. So, all right, guys, that's got to do it for tonight's episode of the Huddle Up podcast. Thanks and big love to Dylan for coming on the show. Mile high salute to that superstar. Really appreciate you. We'll get you back on again. That was a ton of fun. It was great getting to know you a little bit there. But guys, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple, wherever you're listening, Spotify, iHeart, wherever your preferred choice is. Just make sure you're subscribed, and especially for YouTube, because I can't tell you how often our DMs are blown up by great members of the community going, hey, when are you going live? Hey, when are you going live? Hey, when are you going live? Well, look, you don't ever have to question for two reasons. One, it's the same time 7 days a week, 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern. All right. Two, even if you forget that, that's okay. If you're subscribed on YouTube and you click the bell, your phone will notify you the second we go live. So make sure you do that. And please, guys, before you dip out, like this video. It helps us tremendously. It's a small thing that you can do to help us in a big way. And if we did a good job for you, share it out there. And then also, guys, follow on Twitter at HuddleUpPod, at Mile High Huddle. My partner, Zack Kelberman, as you can see on the screen here, at Kelberman NFL, myself, at Chad and Jensen, and then our producer, John K. MHH on Twitter, at John K. MHH. And by the way, guys, follow again. Oh, I forgot to do it because I got caught up in the excitement of Dylan. We do have winners from the randomly selected followers and likers of the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page. We'll put a pin in that till Wednesday. We'll announce that on Wednesday. If you want to get in on that, you want to enter yourself in to win some swag, I just put the link in the description. Go follow the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page, and you'll be entered to win. But other than that, Zach, hey, we're off tomorrow night, so have a great start to your week, bro, and we'll circle back on Wednesday with a superstar segment from David Kilgore.
And I know you have to go. I know you're in a hurry, so I'll keep it brief. We'll see you guys on Wednesday, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be back on with that. And also, hopefully, more news, Chad, with the franchise tag window opening tomorrow. Maybe some Simmons tidbits to talk about. We'll see you then. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.